Hi guys, welcome to our very first episode video taping of Fat Girl Talk. We are a group of women that have come together to discuss what it's like being a fat girl today. My name is Tanya. I'm 31. I live in Central Florida, and I'm a mommy. I'm a fat mommy, which is kind of hard for some people to believe. And these are the rest of my ladies who will be participating in this video.
Okay, so I'm Janice. I'm 28 and I'm from Houston, Texas, and I'm an admin on the Fat Girl Talk channel, and I'm really excited to do this with everybody. So I think it's going to be awesome.
Okay, hi, I'm Kay. I am 23 and from the Midwest, and I am a fat, black, queer woman.
Awesome.
Okay. Hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm 22 and I'm from New York.
Hi, I'm Brenna. I'm 21. I'm from South Carolina.
Hi, my name is Lorraine. I'm 19 and I'm from Baltimore, Maryland.
Awesome. All right, well, I guess that's everybody.
Okay, well, today we will be discussing the first time that we realized that fat was bad, or that we realized we were fat, and we decided that because we were fat, we were bad, or different from everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So I can honestly say that the first time that I realized that I was different from everyone else was when I was in middle school. I wasn't I never realized that I was different. My mom is chunky, so I was chunky, and that was okay. And my siblings were younger than me, so they're small. They're supposed to be smaller than me. But when I was in the 7th grade, I got into an argument with a girl. I still remember her name, which is ridiculous. And she called me a bunch of names, which was fine because you're 12, it's what you do. But she finished the argument with, none of that matters because you're fat. And I was like, wait, what? I'm what? No, because I didn't see myself as fat. I saw myself as, a 12-year-old. And then it was after that incident that I realized that, like, my best friend was like a size 2 and I was a size 13. I was like, wait a second. That me and my mom were the same size. And I'm like, wait, this is my mom. And then obviously from there on, I hit puberty, so I only got bigger. And then it was like, I can't find clothes anywhere. So it was that mean, evil little child in 7th grade who was like, I'm going to burst your little bubble. You fat. But I got over it. Many years later, I got over it. But that's the first time that I realized that being fat was not just an adjective, that it was just bad. This was an insult.
Yeah. Wow. The first time for me, it was less like serious and less mean. It was more like anecdotal, and like I look back on it and I'm just like, that's funny, like, but it's not. Okay, so when I was a little kid, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the show Pete and Pete, but it's a show about these two redhead brothers named Pete, and there's this one episode called What We Did Our Summer Vacation, and it's like really hot and there's like not a lot to do or whatever, and there's this fat woman in this show and she's outside just like filling her bird feeder, but she has fat arms. Like, you can't see mine because I'm like this really tight shirt, but I have really fat arms. So she's like filling the bird feeder and they're just all like mesmerized by like her fat strange arm, and it was just like this really weird experience because even as a little kid, like as a fat little kid, I didn't have like a giant, but I had like fat down here, and I was just like, this is something to like stare and gawk at, and it was just like, and that was just like one of the first experiences for me, and it seemed so small, but then as an adult I went back and I watched the episode, like not totally thinking about that situation as a kid, and I was just like, because my arms have always been like one of my main, like, I used to not wear short sleeves or like no sleeves and stuff, and it was just because I was afraid that people were gonna like stare in like mesmerization at my fat arms. And so that was just like probably the first experience with just my fat body being wrong or like different or something to stare at and gawk at.
I can go next, I suppose.
Okay.
Um, my mom was a fat woman, or is a fat woman, but so I always grew up with that, and I knew I looked a lot like her. So I think I always kind of had like this thought that I looked like her, and she was self-conscious about herself. So
Mhm.
that really influenced the way I looked at myself. And there wasn't like a particular moment that struck me, but I remember being in maybe third grade and standing in front of the mirror after I took a shower and saying, I have fat arms and I have a fat face, and saying that out loud. And I remember that just being a horrible, like, I was always self conscious. Like, it was a horrible thing for me. And then I remember my mom found out and she sat me down in front of her and said, do you think that you're fat? And I said, no, even though that was a lie. And then she said, do you think I'm fat? And I said, no, even though that was like, because I realized like instinctively like it was a bad thing. Like when she sat me down to talk about it, I realized that, oh, this is not a good thing to be. This is not, I should say no to protect people's feelings. And then I had the same kind of thing going through middle school. I realized that all my friends were so much smaller than me. I remember sitting in the car and looking at the differences in my leg size to my friend's leg size. Just like things like that. And I've kind of gotten over it as I've gotten older. Like I just stopped caring about people's opinions. But that was really those two things were like the big things in my life growing up.
For me, I would say that there were actually two separate incidents. One where I realized my body was wrong, and the other where I realized that my body was fat and wrong. And I can remember being in second grade, and I was I had boobs. I was chubby, and so I had boobs, and I had a butt, and I looked different. And my mom had to take me to get a bra. And like I honestly I was happy at the time because I was like, my mom wears a bra, like I want to be just like my mom. And I remember I came to school and I showed all the girls my bra in the bathroom. And my mom was just like, oh my gosh, you can't do that. You can't do that. And so that was the first time I realized that like I had a different body from my friends. And then I can remember in fifth grade, two things really. Overhearing a boy saying that I was ugly, but that I had a nice body. And being traumatized by that. And then around that same time period, my mother putting me on Weight Watchers. I was in fifth grade on my first diet, taking the little Weight Watchers meals to school and microwaving them. And I didn't really get why I had to do that, and all the other kids could pack like sandwiches or buy lunch. And I think that was the first time it was like, okay, I am fat. This is bad.
That seems like really traumatizing. I'm so like I always know like how lucky I am that my mother never made like a big deal about my weight. I can't imagine being put on a diet, especially one that's like so obviously a diet like Weight Watchers, and have to like take those meals to school.
Yeah.
And I mean, not that the other kids probably knew what it was, but some of them probably did because they have parents and stuff.
Yeah.
And that seems pretty difficult.
It sucked, and I mean, I lost weight on it, but yeah, it was pretty embarrassing.
Wow.
I guess I'll go next. So I guess growing up, I guess when I was really young, I used to be very skinny, and then I kind of just blew up in a way, and it was something sort of that my parents would not let me forget that I used to be skinny, and it was very young. So I would say I was around maybe like 7, 8, and that's one part is that like they would constantly remind me that, oh yeah, you used to be smaller, la la la. But I remember very distinctively that I was coming home from school and I was sitting on a bus and these two girls would just bully the crap out of me, and they would just be like, oh my god, you're fat, you're like an elephant, blah blah blah. And I would just be like, why is that bad, so what? And it would just come to a point that it was just like they kept pointing and they kept laughing, and it just like it was at that point that I realized it wasn't like a good thing, it was really really bad. But yeah, I'd never had anything like the diet thing, and that's very unfortunate.
I think that like as a Hispanic person, a lot. I guess maybe a little bit less was made of my body size by my family because it's not uncommon for Hispanic people to, you know, be heavier. And I'm not saying that as like the whole entire like Hispanic community is fat, but it's just not very uncommon. So that was something that like was, I guess, probably luckier for me and my family specifically, just because. And then also I'm half Hispanic and half white, and on my white side of the family there's also fat people. My grandmother specifically was very large, and I never like I never really I remember thinking that there was something wrong with her body, but she never like put that out there. So it's all coming from like other places um, outside of the home for me. So like my family was never like, and I mean I was skinny as like a 4 and under, but like after that, like the majority of my life was fat. So there wasn't much of a you used to be skinny, and there was you used to be a toddler.
I didn't get that either. I was born chunky and I stayed chunky. There's never been, Tanya, remember the time you were little? No, because that was when I was in the womb.
Yeah.
I have any recollection of ever being little. And
Yeah.
no one else does either. To everyone else, I've always been chunky. So it's been chunky Tanya. So, and I too am Hispanic. And one of the things Hispanic people do is feed each other. So a lot of the time they'll make little jokes, especially the older Hispanic people, but they'll still be like, eat, woman, eat. And you're just like, listen, I just ate 5 pounds. What more do you want me to eat? They're like, no, eat some more. So that stigma never came, I agree, other than my grandmother, it never came from family. It came from outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think it's because like it's an Asian thing, and most Asian people, well, specifically Chinese people, are very slender, and it's just it was a very obvious difference. And what can I say?
I guess that probably was very difficult. I mean, to come from, I mean, I don't want to like generalize all Chinese people or all Asian people, but I mean, the ones that you do see are generally pretty thin. So I mean, to come from a culture that is known for being skinny, especially when they're like, you know, everybody's like, eat like the rice and stuff because you see the Asian people and they're skinny. So to be like seen as, you know, they just want you all to look the same.
Right, of course.
You to look exactly like everybody else. I mean, and that's fat people in general, though. But I mean, especially, I know culturally, people, you know, cultural-wise, they can be a lot harder on each other, especially when you're a minority in a country, because then they want to, you know, you're representing us negatively and things like that, which I don't think. I think you're beautiful. So, but I can see definitely getting backlash from relatives and stuff like that when you don't look like what everybody expects you to look like.
Yep.
Should I go?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Well, I grew up fat, like most of you. I don't really remember an exact moment where I realized that my body was inherently wrong. My mother was fat while I was growing up, so I found a lot of comfort in, I don't know, just I always kind of felt like it was okay because my mom was like that, and my mom was perfect, you know, so she couldn't do anything wrong. So I have a lot of severe anxiety issues, which I feel like definitely helped me realize that people found my body to not, like, they didn't think that my body was right because I was fat. I know that in the locker rooms in middle school was really difficult for me. Like, I specifically remember that time looking at, like, the other girls' bodies and asking myself why my body wasn't like that. And I always felt really insecure about how I looked, and it wasn't until I got older that I realized that there wasn't anything inherently wrong with my body. But yeah, I definitely beat myself up a lot for my body when I was younger, which I definitely regret. But I feel like some people kind of encourage young fat people to like beat up on themselves because maybe that'll encourage them to lose weight. And yeah, I definitely don't encourage that whatsoever. It wasn't fun.
Yeah,
I
I
think.
remember. Oh, Red.
No, go ahead, please.
I was just gonna say, I remember in middle school that being a horrible time, and I remember the locker room situation actually changing in the like the showers, like in the bathrooms, so I wouldn't be around the other girls.
Yeah.
So I remember having kind of that similar experience.
Yeah, I definitely had similar experiences with like the locker room, but specifically with like encouraging negative feelings about like the fat body, my fat body. When I was in middle school, they had basketball tryouts, and for some reason I just like really wanted to do it. And so I came and I told my mom, and she just happened to have her boyfriend of the time over, and he was just like, why are you even going to try out? Like, you're not going to be able to run up and down the court. And it was like such a traumatizing, like still to this day, like that affects me. Like, not that I would try out for basketball at my age because I don't have any interest in it now, but it's just like, not that it would have made me skinnier, but it would have made me like more active. And so it's just like, that's such a negative like outlook. Especially if you think that my body is wrong or that I'm overweight, why would you discourage me from doing something that would just make me more active, even if it didn't make me lose weight, you know? And it's just like, and that was like a really negative. And then like my mom didn't defend me, and that was also like a really negative experience as far as like somebody just like pointedly making me feel bad about like my bad body, like my fat body. And so that was a pretty negative experience. And then also in like the 4th grade, like, I don't know if they made you guys do this at your schools, but at our schools, they would make you, like, go to the nurse and get weighed once a year. And I remember in the 4th grade, like, all the girls went and they got weighed, and they came back and they were, like, sharing their weights. And it's, like, at no point in my life can I remember, like, a specific weight. Even now, like, I don't have, like, any clue how much I weigh because I just really don't care. I'm not going to, like, make myself feel bad about a number. But in the 4th grade, like they were in like the 60s and 70s and stuff like that, and maybe the 80s. I mean, there were some that were like taller and stuff like that, but I was 114 pounds, and they were all like sharing their weights and stuff, and it was just like I could not tell them how much I weighed because it would just be like they would just know, like, and not that they couldn't tell already that I was fat, but I guess just like it was so scary to have to put a number to that, you know. It was just a really negative experience.
I can definitely relate to that, but mine's more like in high school. So, so in high school we would there would be a day where you would just sit. I think it was normally like the first day, and the teacher would just go around and he would literally ask you what your weight is, what your height is, and then like with that they would send like a letter home for like the BMI stupid thing. But it was like they asked you in front of everyone. And you know auditoriums, they're like, I mean not auditoriums, gyms, they're like loud and echoey, so I was just like, I lied my ass off.
I would have just been like, no, like, why? That's
a messed up thing to ask somebody.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I can remember in high school, in science class, we were calculating our BMIs, and I was definitely the fattest person in the room. Like, I just was. And I can remember lying about it, and I can remember this other girl who was, like, chubby but not as big as me being like, how is your BMI lower than my BMI? And, like, flipping out that, like, mine was lower and, like, not letting it go at all, and me just being completely humiliated because it was like, come on, sister, just let me have that.
I think it's definitely like a way to shame you, because there's no benefit in asking children like how much they weigh, especially to even consider that a child knows off the top of their head like how much they weigh, or to make you calculate your BMI in like school. And it's just like, it definitely has to be in order to shame people, because there's no benefit to, you know, they don't ask you how much you make, you know, or anything like that. Anything else there's potential to be embarrassed about. Like, I was really poor, so I had like really crappy clothes. They weren't like, tell me where you shop, or anything like that. But so I think it's definitely like a way to shame you for being fat, because there's no reason.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of the things that they do in, I feel like, gym class it's like I have so many memories of being absolutely miserable and embarrassed in gym. Like they would measure our like body fat, like, and I remember them measuring our BMI, and it's like I had never really understood why that was a part of gym. Like
Yeah, no,
I feel
gym
like
is a
that
place
was
to
inappropriate.
Yeah, gym is a place to do like badminton and like random sports. It's not a place for us to like. Because I had those
Yeah.
same memories in middle school, and it was horrible. Like the whole thing was terrible. And like the also what is that? That national fitness test they make you do.
Oh
You have to do like the
gosh.
pace test and like all of that. I remember making up excuses for why I couldn't run as many laps.
Yeah, the pacer test was a nightmare.
Yeah, like oh, I have asthma, so I can only do this many. Which wasn't necessarily a lie, but it was just like, oh my gosh, it was
I'm
humiliating.
really happy that was after my time. Like there was no national fitness test when I was in school.
Absolutely awful.
I don't remember. I don't remember anything in gym class ever pertaining to my weight. Like when I was in middle school, like the 6th grade in New York, we still had the national fitness test or whatever. Um, but in the 6th grade, I was still small enough to where I could run a mile. I almost died. That's how I discovered I was asthmatic. But I was okay with that. But like in middle school and all these other stories I'm hearing, maybe it's because I'm as old as I am. I didn't have to deal with any of that. We were like shuttled into a big gym. Here's a basketball. Here's a volleyball. Here's a dodgeball. Here's a football. Go. And
Yeah.
I sat in a corner with magazines along with other people who did not want to do anything in gym, and we sat there and looked at stuff. We didn't actually have to weigh ourselves or measure ourselves or anything actually even remotely related to physical stuff.
When you guys, for the people that did have to like measure your BMI and stuff like that, I know that you were saying like you did it in science class or whatever, and so I guess I'm assuming it was like a calculation. But did you guys ever have to do like when I was in elementary school and they made us do it? Like it was actually like a clamp that they would like pinch my
Yep.
fat with.
I remember the clamp. I had the clamp. Yeah. That
It was
that really traumatized me as a kid. I still remember that clamp to
Yeah.
this day, telling me that I was fat and obese and not okay. That something was wrong with me.
And I remember somebody saying you went to the nurse to do this, but I remember it being in the gym in front of everybody.
Yeah, it was in the gym for me in front of
In
everyone.
the gym too.
well, the BMI, like the little clamp thing, was in the gym in front of everybody,
Okay,
but the
gotcha.
actual like weighing, they would like weigh you and like take your height, but they would make like groups of 5 go to the nurse and do
Yeah,
it.
we had to do all of that in the gym, at least at my school. It was terrible.
That is awful.
And then like we would get these like notes home. So like imagine like your parents opening up these like letters telling you that your child is morbidly obese, and it's like, holy crap.
That is insane. It's like letters are sent home when your kid is doing like really well or when your kid is doing really poorly, not when your kid is fat. That makes no sense.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with academics whatsoever. I don't feel like that's the school's jurisdiction at all. I think
No.
that's highly inappropriate.
That is like insane. And it's just like as a parent, especially now after having like not I'm not a parent now, but like especially now after experiencing like what I did as a kid, if I were to become a parent, I would just like the moment they sent home anything pertaining to like my child's body, like unless they think my child is being beaten or something like that, you don't have any like reason to say anything to my child about like their body. Like don't make my kid feel fat or anything like that. Like I would not let that happen if I have a kid. Like they're fat because they probably will be, but I'm not gonna allow that. If they say something, they need to shove it. They need to keep it to themselves if they have a problem with it because they're not gonna make my kid feel bad about their body. That makes no sense to intentionally make somebody, especially a child, when they're so like impressionable and young, like to make them feel bad about their bodies. It just doesn't make sense, and I wouldn't allow it to happen. But that's because I had the experiences that I did as a kid, probably. So do you guys have any like specific experiences that like kind of led you to like maybe not correcting but like healing a bit of like what happened with these events, like to make yourself feel better or understand that your body wasn't wrong, or like any specific events or whatever? Because for me, it was definitely joining Tumblr. Like I corrected a bit of my self image, but it wasn't until Tumblr when I could actively see like beautiful fat women online who love themselves and were loved by others, and not in a like BBW sexual way, but like that were just like other fat women and other people just like appreciating their bodies, that I really was able to start accepting and appreciating my own. So
Yeah, I had that same experience.
You can go.
Okay, and I was gonna say I had that same experience because yeah, and it wasn't even like when I first joined Tumblr, but it was probably like 2 years after that I started to realize, oh, I'm fine, I'm okay, I can love myself, it's fine, and now so I'm still on that, obviously on that journey. I think all of us are, but it was definitely a big moment when I started to see people that look like me, and I was like, wow, they're beautiful. That I can be beautiful too.
Absolutely. I know for me, before I joined Tumblr, I would always talk about how I just wanted to like meet people who own being fat. Like I still felt really bad about it, but I felt like I wanted that sense of community. Joining Tumblr, same thing. Seeing fat women in bikinis and being sexy, and like people just like fussing over how beautiful they were. And then I actually have met a girl who was running like a local feminist meetup in my town, who I actually think would be perfect for this, who like ran this body positive website, and I remember like spending hours just going through all of it. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I want to be like this really awesome fat girl. And through that, and I mean, definitely still on my journey, I've kind of just fallen in love with my fat. And to be honest, I think I would look kind of funny anyway else.
I feel that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because I don't know, because I'm older, but I I didn't stumble across Tumblr until not that long ago. And I think I had come to terms and come to love my body prior to that. But when I was younger, when I was closer to you guys' age, in my early 20s, um, and still now, I have to admit, most of my friends are gay males. So we go to gay clubs a lot. And there's nothing better than a 6'6", 300-pound drag queen telling you that you're beautiful. You know, they're like, honey, work it. And you're just like, well, you know what? Yes, I'm going to make my little shirt. Thank you for making my day better. I'm going on to go on about my business. So I thank all the fantastic drag queens I've ever come across in my life, because every single one of them has always been like, work, girl, work it. And I'm like, yes. Life is good. There's nothing more judgmental than a drag queen, because I've seen them make fun of everybody, and you're telling me my boobs look good. Thanks. I love you. I'm okay. I'm okay with this. I'm okay with this. And I've been lucky enough to have a lot of friends that are varying sizes and races and all over the spectrum. And they've we've never I've never had a friend or have been part of a group of people that make me feel or point out that I may be larger than some of them. It's always been real, like yes, you look fantastic. How do you feel? Do you feel good? Then we're going. We're going to the club. I don't care what you're wearing. You look amazing. I say so. Let's go. So I've never really had that whole um, not to say that I haven't felt bad about my weight, because we do that to ourselves. Let's be real. If you open a magazine, you're like, look at this dress, it's gorgeous. It's never gonna fit my thigh, and never in a million years. Um, and I also have a little sister who's, well, I say little, but she's only 3 years younger than me. And she was really slim growing up. She was super slim and super athletic. And then she joined the military, and she became like fucking Iron Woman. Like she had muscles in places I didn't know you could have muscles. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm your older sister, and I always made fun of you, and I can beat you up, but now you can beat me up. Hold on. And she was always like, no, Tanya, you're beautiful. You're perfect. You're perfect. We were little kids. She was always like, I'm going to be just like you when I grow up.
Hmm.
So I always felt like, okay, then I'm fine. It doesn't matter that I weigh more than other people because the people that I do know and love and care for think I'm fine just as I am. And it's funny because now she's kind of chunky. And she's like, look at that. I ended up like you anyway.
That's so funny. I have a sister that's like 12 years younger than me, and I think it's really lucky to have found Tumblr when I did, and to really like get the self-acceptance, like self-love path, because she's like 16 now, and she was like thin the majority of her life, but after like puberty really hit, she started putting on a bit of weight. So I mean, I wouldn't call her like fat, but I mean, she's definitely like, I guess she's like a size 16, which some people associate as fat. I mean, not that fat's bad, but I think she has a great body, but she's so confident about it because of my body and like the way I feel about myself. And whenever I see her, she's like, Janice, I put on more weight, but like, look how these clothes fit me. And I'm like, she's like, I look great. And I'm like, you do, you look awesome. And I think that like I feel lucky because if I was probably still like hating myself or hating parts of myself as she was growing up, going through like the really like preteen, super like, I can't think of the word, impressionable like ages, she might potentially feel bad about herself because her mom is really skinny, so it's got to be really hard. Like I know for a fact it is really hard to be fatter than your mom. So, but she handles it really well, and that's really exciting.
I can have a sister who's 12 years younger than me, and I'm only 23. She's 11, and she's actually really, really thin right now. But I'm starting to see her go through those puberty changes, where now she's putting on a little bit more weight, and not even like in a sense of being fat, but in a sense of being more curvy. And that's exactly where it started for me. So like with like the fat acceptance community and like the body positive community, I already feel super armed to like smash any like body image issues that
Mm-hmm.
I think she cut out.
come up thin and told me how beautiful I was, and she's my baby sister, you know. So kids are 100% honest.
Yeah, you cut out a little bit after you said that you were like ready to smash any body image issues that she had. So what did you say after that?
Nurse.
The internet just does not want to hear us to hear that little bit.
I think like she said something about her sister telling her that she was beautiful and like how kids are really honest. My nephew came up to me the other day and he was like, Janice, it looks like you put on a couple pounds. And I was like, that's not something that you like. You could say it to me, like I'm not offended. That's not something that you can generally say to people. And he's like, why? I put on a couple pounds. And I was like, and he is a chunky little boy too, but he's like super adorable.
Oh, I love kids.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching this video. We all really appreciate it. And thank you to all of my lovely friends and of the Fat Girl Talk series for helping. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Fat Girl Talk, fatgrltalk, and find us on Tumblr at fatgrltalk.tumblr.com, GRL. Yeah.